Ruth and Bruce, if you could move to the public gallery, please. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on now with the next submission. This one's online and it's the Retirement Villages Association New Zealand. Welcome, John Collins. Can you hear us? He's just coming in now. Welcome, John. Can you hear us?
I can indeed. Thanks very much.
And we can hear
you. Hear me?
We can hear you fine. Just start when you're ready. Thank you.
Okay, look, thanks very much for the opportunity to present to you. I'm John Collins. I'm the Executive Director of the Retirement Villages Association, and we represent the interests of the owners, developers and managers of retirement villages across New Zealand. As you probably know, retirement villages in Kapiti District Council's area are incredibly important for both, I suspect, your residents and for the industry as a whole. We have 10 villages with about 1,368 units, 1,880 residents, which is 27% of the over 75 population in Kapiti choosing to live in a village. That is one of the highest in the country. Second only, I think, to Tauranga at 33%, but nonetheless, it's still an important part of the housing options for older people in Kapiti. On the question of housing options and the question of population and demographic growth, I'm sure it's no surprise to this council to know that between 2018, when we had 6,870 people aged 75 or over, and to the projections from the Stats Department to 2043, we were looking at an 87.6 increase to 12,890. And when you look at that increase aligned with the projected increase in the population of Kapiti District as a whole, we're looking at 55,200 back in 2018, rising to 62,700 in 2043. That's a 13.6% increase compared, as I say, to an 87.6% increase. So in short, what we're suggesting as part of this presentation is that retirement villages are an important part now and will continue to be even more important in the future. Can I just pause for a second and draw the distinction between a retirement village and an aged residential care centre, which you'll know as rest homes or hospitals? A retirement village is basically for older adults who are capable of living independently. Now, they may require some level of home-based support, assistance from the Ministry of Health, but generally speaking, they are capable of living independently. They get out and about and they involve themselves in their community. And contrast that with a residential care facility where there's a higher level of dependence and a high level of clinical support and the like. And if you're thinking of that, then rest homes and hospitals and dementia and psychogeriatric facilities are part of that particular thing. 65% of retirement villages have an aged care facility on their campus, which I guess could be confusing, I suppose. I realise I don't think I've got my camera on, so let me turn that on. There we are. I guess the association's presentation is really aimed at supporting Somersets in particular, but also on behalf of other retirement village operators who may wish to continue to develop villages in Kapiti. The village proposition, I suggest to you, is in demand right now. 130 people move in nationally every week into retirement villages, and that demand is going to remain so for as long as we can foresee into the future. And that proposition basically is retirement villages offer their residents warm, dry, secure, age-appropriate housing. So we're talking flat entry and exit, all that sort of thing, universal design standards, and compare that with their aging Victorian villa down the road. They are able to make friends and companionship. There's a high level of financial security, particularly if you're in a village with a fixed weekly fee, and there's a pathway to care should that be needed. And about 15 to 20% of retirement village residents actually move into care. So if you think of the demand made on council's resources and council services in going into the future, when you compare a retirement village with a conventional housing development, there are a number of very, very important differences. Somerset talk about this in their submission, and I'd just like to reinforce it. Basically, things like the unit size is significantly smaller in a retirement village. It's probably between 80 and 120 square meters, and contrast that with over 200 square meters in a conventional housing. The population average is much smaller. 1.3 people live in a retirement village unit compared to, say, 2.2 or more in a conventional development. Water use is obviously therefore much restricted. Traffic is 3 traffic movements a day on average as opposed to 10. And there's a reduced demand on council services in that regard. And
Okay,
retirement
John,
villages,
John, sorry,
I've
sorry,
run out of
we're
time.
kind of running out of time, so if you could make
Okay,
a few
my final
closing
point then.
remarks, that would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, certainly. I guess really one way I want to leave it is that in general, retirement villages, residents use less council amenities like playing fields and the like than a conventional development. So in conclusion, I think I just wanted to reinforce that retirement villages actually do not impose a burden on the community to the same extent a residential development does. And as a result, we believe the development contributions should reflect that, as in line with Somerset. Happy to take questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, John. John, I was just wondering, like the retirement villages, they're villages, not prisons. So the people in them use our libraries, they use the swimming pools, they use the parks. So they use a lot of the facilities.
They do, but also most villages have their own library and their own swimming pool and their own extensive park-like grounds. So I would suggest that while some residents will make use of the district council areas, we're not suggesting they make no use. The use which they make will be significantly less than a conventional housing development.
Anything further, Councillor Wilson? Councillor Coфord.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. John, I think this is more directed to our CEO. What percentage of the development levy actually goes to the development? In other words, what proportion does the council pay and what proportion does the development levy pay for any development?
So unless you're able to answer that, John, we'll park that for when we...
No, I can't, particularly. I'm not sure what the levy is.
Take a note of that question. Councillors will have an opportunity to ask questions about the submissions when we have our briefing analysing the submissions. So make sure you take a note of that and ask that then. Do we have any further questions? Councillor Halliday.
Yes, thank you, John. And look, your submission is pretty succinct, and I'll be looking at the Somerset one as it comes through as well. It's actually a curiosity question I might have. You're obviously a organisation representing the developers, but I was just wondering, are there community groups within the retirement homes that your group links to with regards to, should we say, taking advice or suggestions, or as such, I guess you'd call them residents associations or something along that sort of line? Did you have linkages?
Yes, most villages. Sorry.
Does your group have linkages to those groups as well?
Yes, most villages have a residents committee, which is mainly more focused on the day-to-day running of the villages themselves. There's a residents association, which we talk to regularly, and there's also a residents council, which we are also engaged with. And a lot of their discussions is around the day-to-day management of the village, the business model, those sorts of things, rather than the development of the property itself, which is what this submission's really about.
Yep, no, that's lovely. Thank you very much for that.
Councillor Wilson.
Sorry, John, I did have one other question. In a general question, because it'll come up with Somerset as well, is there any desire on the part of the Retirement Villages Association to assist with the lower cost housing demand?
Oh, look, that's a fabulous question. And it's one which is asked regularly. We do have a number of not-for-profit trust retirement villages which have a focus on providing rental accommodation for people who older people who need the benefits the village has to offer. And we know that as the cohort moves through, we are getting a declining number of people who actually own property, and the business model traditionally requires a capital sum to be paid, which is usually realised from the sale of the family home and moving to the village. Because if you don't have the capital sum or not enough capital sum, then operators will need to think carefully about how they can accommodate. If someone doesn't have enough capital, then that's a relatively straightforward process to go through. But if someone has no capital and are reliant on rentals, that's quite a different proposition altogether. We've spent a lot of time talking to operators about the importance of thinking about rentals, and the ANZ annually does a survey of our sector, and this is one of the questions they ask. And an increasing minority, we're not talking large numbers, but an increasing minority of operators understand that they will need to move to a rental option if they are to remain relevant, I guess.
Great, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Thanks for your submission today, John. A lot there for us to ponder. And we now have the Somerset submission in front of us as well, so we'll be able to have a look at that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your attendance today.
Okay, all the best. Thanks.
Great, thanks. Next we have Mike Johnson. Welcome, Mike. Take a seat up at the table. You can start when you're ready.
Thank you, Your
Your
Worship.
You have 3 minutes and then about 5 minutes for questions.
3 minutes.
Yes.
Did you say? I was told I had 20 minutes.
No, I'm afraid
Okay,
not.
well, it's just what I got it in writing. Anyhow,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, as I said before, the staff did not bring mattresses for us to sleep over.
No,
we've got a lot of submissions to get through today. I might be able to provide a little bit of leeway, but just try and keep it to as close to 3 minutes as possible, and then we'll have more time for questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you for your opportunity to make a submission today. I've been in tourism all my commercial life, over 60 years, and a local retired resident for 3 years only. I came from Rotorua, and there I was a trustee and still am of the Rotorua Museum, which yesterday announced a full recovery and a full repair, which is great for tourism in New Zealand. And I was a vice president of the Chamber of Commerce over there as well. I've been a member of SCUL in New Zealand for 40 years. SCUL is a worldwide society for senior tourism personages. I've attended 10 world travel markets in London each November, which allows great interaction. I was a board member of TANS, the Travel Agents Association of New Zealand, for 10 years, and was awarded life membership with the New Zealand Institute of Travel and Tourism in 1992. I have visited 100 overseas countries, territories, and various islands. In my 3-year period here, I have researched and analysed the local tourism scene, written this paper, and now am prepared to offer it to Council for review, comment, or the WPB. I have read recently that your stated tourism objective is to encourage Wellingtonians to come to Kapiti and visit with their kids. That has to be possibly the weakest goal I've ever heard in my 50 years of tourism development. You need to make the Kapiti region a more widely known destination and develop knowledge with the public and the tourism industry nationwide and worldwide. You need to promote to ITOC inbound tour operators. I know one such member based in Amsterdam but born in New Zealand who sends a lot of visitors to New Zealand, and they enjoy a night on Kapiti Island and have left there. After they leave there, they went to stay with us in Rotorua. At that stage, we had built and run a 5-star Qualmark rated lodge on the banks of Lake Rotorua. Many simply stated that their night on the island was the highlight of their New Zealand stay to that point. The evening amongst the birds and wildlife over there blew their minds. Many tourists are not able to stay the night, but a walk to the northern end point, followed by a luncheon and talk, is also very acceptable, with their interesting talk on migration, fish movements, swimming past like whales, and the actual local history. But the night stay is a pursue operator of great commercial benefit to future conservation modes. What else can we offer the local and international marketplace? We have bike trails all over. We have walkways that need to be better documented and made available. We have cycle tracks all round. We have wet areas where visitors can see a wide range of bird life and fauna and flora, and in many areas guided tours are available. We have golf courses, and something that really excites my 2 young grandchildren is the large number of public parks with swings, flying fox, climbers, and wide attraction of things to do and see and experience. It's a great area for families. Recently, I became very much aware of the retirement villages that have popped up, and this is increasing. They have visitors, and this is where we have our greatest weakness, the lack of commercial accommodation. B&Bs abound, but commercial motels and hotels are scarce. I'm aware of a small hotel mooted for the main drag, but the lack of commercial accommodation is a sizable negative to sustainable tourism growth. We have an airport, not many of those around like ours. I would love to see a flight first thing going north and last thing returning here. With some imagination, regular flights both north and south should be solicited to the airlines, outlining our increased population numbers that should make new routes more viable. The area abounds in topical attractions and competitions, with many sectors would open the areas of of special events and tourism, which would increase the financial viability for these functions in the area. Kapiti has so much to offer in the way of culture, sightseeing, adventure, environment, history and access, but needs more investment in accommodation, restaurants, local history outlets and ready available tourism information.
Mike, you've kind of got a choice. You can finish what you've got to say, or we've got time to take a couple of questions. Which would you prefer? We don't have time for both.
Right, I'll take a couple of questions, certainly.
Yeah, if you want to just quickly summarise the further points you wanted to make, that would be good.
It's only about another 3 paragraphs, the whole thing.
Okay. Well,
Can I?
Yeah, carry on then. That's
Okay.
fine.
Transmission Gully has made us more opportunities for growth and development and brought population access much closer. I've discovered so many attractions, walks, cycle trails, paths, etc., and these need to be put together in a leaflet form of public relations in Kapiti. Bike trails, walkways, historic areas, beach access points, island timetables, bus routes, train frequency, restaurants, events like kite shows, historic places like Southwood. We need to applaud what we have and show the variety of things we can offer. We must impress awareness with regarding is sadly lacking. Our long-term goal, how's this then? A New Zealand lifestyle where all are welcome, or a destination to suit all tastes. I'm aware of a new tourism attraction being opened soon in the Hutt area, who will be targeting mainly Wellingtonians for their patronage. That could mean sharing that market with Kapiti, which is the market that Kapiti spends most of its time and efforts upon. It's now the time for Kapiti to create more variety and information and increase your market visibility. You will notice I have not discussed the island as such, and I don't intend to in this address, but at a later opportunity perhaps. Thank you for this opportunity to rant on about an area of New Zealand that has a strong people base and so much to offer residents, inbound and outbound guests and tourists.
Thank you.
I have sent a copy into your organisation, so you can put it behind you or distribute it as necessary.
Some really, really great thoughts as we work towards increasing tourism in the area. So thank you so much. As it turns out, our next speaker hasn't appeared yet, so we've got time for a few questions. Councillor Go.
Thank you very much. Look, I wasn't aware we had someone of such calibre in our community. So thank you for making yourself known to us, firstly. I just wonder if you are aware of the work being done by our Tourism Advisory Board under the auspices of the Economic Development Kotahitanga Board.
I have spoken over the last 3 years I've been here with 1 or 2 members of the Tourism Board, but we haven't got to a stage of discussing anything of meaningfulness. I think that's why I took the opportunity
Okay.
today to try and put some area in it, simply because of the experience I've had internationally, and I look at things very differently from what you may do with respect at a local level. I'm trying to bring the
Sure.
Kapiti idea into the melt where you fit in to New Zealand tourism.
Yes, I think it would be great to tap into your expertise, and I can help facilitate that if you'd like.
Yep.
Because I sit on the EDKB and have a very strong interest in the tourism sector, so happy to connect with you and facilitate.
Love to have the
that,
opportunity.
yeah.
I'm very available. I've 26 hours of the day free.
Okay, all right, I'll look.
Your day's the same length as ours.
What was that, Your Honour?
Your day's the same length as ours.
Okay.
Well, yes, we can all lie a wee bit, can't we?
Okay, well, look, please connect with me, Liz Coe, all right? Just connect with me. My details are on the council website.
Thanks very much for that, Liz. And
Thank you. I didn't bring a pen with me, so
It's all right, Bruce. I've got your details.
yeah, okay. That's,
yeah, you.
Sorry, Mike.
Councillor
look-
Halliday.
Yeah, sorry, through you, Madam Chair. Fantastic to have you here. Mike, one of the reasons I put my hand up for this job was because I had a little business down at the beach, and when I asked about a tourism strategy, there wasn't one. When I asked about an economic development, there wasn't one. So we landed an economic development strategy and an independent board in the last triennium, and this triennium we're getting to tourism. It's been a long time coming, so you're very, very timely with your comments, and I'll certainly be working with Liz. I'd love to be in that meeting as well with regards to meeting up with you. That was one of the things I wanted to do, is love to connect with you and bring that conversation and your experience into the mix as well. I'm rubbing my hands because you've got all this time on your hands. Very much
empty
looking at
vessels
bringing
make
you
the
in.
most sound.
Were you ever aware of the Send Yourself to Wellington campaign that was done quite a number of years ago? It was modelled on the Send Yourself to Melbourne campaign.
I was based in Wellington for 4 years, 1968 to 72.
Oh, it's a bit after that.
And a bit after that, and since then I've been involved more in the international marketplace, overseas and domestically in the companies that I was running. And then I got out of that when things changed in the computer world, and went and built a 5-star luxury lodge in Rotorua, where I've been involved there. I was there in the Chamber of Commerce. I was vice president of that, and I'm also a trustee of the Rotorua Museum,
Yep.
which yesterday announced that they are now going to not replace it, repair it to its former glory, because of the accent it has in the architectural areas.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I'll certainly be working with us to get in contact with you, and then like to follow up on this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everybody wants to be in contact with you. Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I appreciate your background as well. It'd be very valuable to resource to tap into. I don't know if you were here earlier when the Trails there was a discussion about a Trails Trust. No. Again, that might be something that Liz will give you a list, and that will probably be on it, because that forms a significant part of how I think. But I want to agree with you 100% about we need to be considerably
Have you got
more
a question
ambitious
coming,
than we've been.
Councillor Wilson?
No, that was it.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Are you wanting to contact John as well? I mean, Mike? Yeah.
I'll leave some cards here on the table so that you can do whatever you like, and that they do fly a bit too. And
Thank you. It's lovely to meet you today. Thank you so
well,
much
actually,
for coming along.
you and I have met before.
Yeah.
We met at a CAP meeting. I came across the room and introduced myself
Yes,
to you. You
yes.
may remember. You were new in the game at that stage.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
So
nice
that's
to see you
Th-
again.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the
Yeah.
chance and listening, the questions which are valuable, and I wish you well for the rest of
I'm
the day.
very, very glad we had that extra time. Thank you. Enjoy your day. Mandy Savage, Cancer Society. Welcome, Mandy. Good to see you again. Yeah, I know, yeah. So I spotted them, I know them.
Cool. Your Worship, elected members, kia ora, my name's Mandy Savage. I'd like to present my submission today linking the Cancer Society's kaupapa and KCDC's 3 outcomes of place, partnership and people. We commend KCDC's vision of a place where it's resilient, it's livable for future generations, particularly in mitigating the impact of climate change through the provision of shade across our community. Shade is a public infrastructure of particular importance, needing greater investment as the impacts of climate change are felt. Good quality shade can reduce an individual's UV exposure by more than 75%. The Local Government Act highlights the need for a healthy and safe environment through careful spatial design to enhance well-being. The Cancer Society respectfully requests that KCDC review current shade provision at council-owned and operated facilities for effectiveness and, where necessary, upgrade built or planted shade. We recommend focusing investment on areas used by families and children, particularly in our lower socio-economic communities, which are generally underserved by shade provision. Housing is a major determinant of health. Improving access to affordable, warm, dry and safe housing benefits all in the community. It's particularly important for reducing cancer risks around overcrowding and also for those experiencing a cancer diagnosis. As part of the consent process, property developers should also be required to include and develop adequate green spaces in any new subdivision or extension of existing subdivision. Trees can help future-proof current growth against future temperature rises and climate change. We recommend deciduous trees to ensure summer shade and light in winter. We encourage the use of eaves to limit the duration of sunlight penetration in summer so indoor spaces don't overheat, and the use of permeable paving and parking spaces is encouraged. KCDC is also a major employer in our rohe. The Cancer Society recommends the development of a SunSmart policy for all staff engaged in outdoor activities, such as your parks and reserves team, to ensure they receive adequate protection from UVR-related cancers. A co-benefit of well-planned and planted shade is the mitigation of climate-related flood risk and the potential for supporting meaningful carbon capture, supporting the Council's climate goals and requirements. The Cancer Society supports improved connectivity and active transport. The provision of built and natural shade at transport hubs and town centres provides protection when waiting. The presence of trees encourages people to walk for both exercise and transport. Adequate tree planting is not only visually attractive, but can help cool urban areas, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, enhance the mode of land and water, enhance biodiversity, encourage greater engagement with public facilities, create safer communities and improve human health and well-being. Tree canopies can reduce the temperatures of the surfaces they shade by as much as 10 to 25 degrees. We commend the recently redeveloped Parapara Umu Transport Hub and note that it includes planted roofs. Active transport is also encouraged with the new 10-bay bike park. We want people in Kapiti to be part of a safe, active and healthy community. However, we know that in this community, alcohol is a problem. The Cancer Society respectfully requests that KCDC develop a local alcohol plan with provisions to protect early childhood centres, medical centres, schools and marae from exposures to alcohol, advertising and other alcohol-related harms. We recommend that KCDC develops a policy to prohibit alcohol sponsorship from council-owned and operated facilities. KCDC also has a role in reducing the availability of alcohol in those council-owned facilities. We'd like to see council refrain from providing commercial leases to those who sell harmful commodities, namely alcohol, vaping products, junk food and tobacco. KCDC is to be commended for the recent updating and extension of its smoke-free and vape-free policy. Collectively, councils across Aotearoa have been working together to align their policies. This collaboration provides opportunities where a regional approach may be the most effective way to promote healthy environments and reduce the impact of harmful commodities. On behalf of the Cancer Society, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity today to present, and I welcome any questions.
for that wide-ranging and detailed submission. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Councillor Halliday?
Through you, Madam Chair. Just thank you, Mandy, for all the work that you do. We've been able to bring some things. The smoking policy was one of them, through the advocacy of yourself and others as well, which was much appreciated. I just wanted to acknowledge your topics on shade and SunSmart.
Thank you.
Certainly, but something I wanted to do was maybe invite you to perhaps have a regular space at our Social Sustainability Committee, maybe every second meeting or something.
Sure.
I think it'd be good to be perhaps you coming along and holding us to account a little bit, but also just as part of the follow-up for a lot of what are very sensible and reasonable suggestions, but maybe that linkage might be something that can be beneficial for both of us as we move forward. As
Okay.
such, we can follow that up offline.
Yeah,
No
appreciate
problems
that.
at all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, thanks, Mandy. What Martin said. The Waikanae Community Board recently received an application for funding for shading for a school,
Okay.
and I was just wondering if does the Cancer Society advocate through Department of Education, because it seems like more of the schools are actually having to apply for local funding for shade. So is that
Currently, shade is not funded by the Ministry of Education. It's up to the individual schools to fundraise within their own communities. So you can see that creates problems regarding the inequities in different communities. It's something we are trying to lobby the Ministry of Education to include. But at this stage, it's up to the individual school communities. It's not a set part of their budget from the ministry.
And do you think it would be helpful if council was to advocate for that as well, perhaps through Martin's committee?
Yeah, 100%.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy to support that as well. Definitely. Particularly seeing as it's come through one of our community boards, it makes it quite relevant to our discussion if we're being approached for funding. I'm not seeing any more questions. Thank you for the work that you do and
Thank you.
for coming along today. Janet Webber, Kay Brown. Welcome, Kay. Another hat
Yes.
on.
Different hat. Hello, Janet. Well, Your Worship, elected members, good afternoon. I'm Kay Brown, and I thank you for this opportunity to speak to the submission re fees at community facilities, which was put in by Janet Webber, who unfortunately is overseas on work commitments. For background, both Janet and I are coaches with the Waikanae Gymnastic Club, to which combined we've given more than 60 years of voluntary coaching. The Waikanae Gymnastic Club was established in 1984, where with wonderful support from the Kapiti Coast District Council, we made the Waikanae Memorial Hall our home. We've cared for that hall like we owned it, which as ratepayers I guess we do. For the last 40 years, Waikanae Gymnastic Club has hired the hall for up to 30 hours a week. Most of these hours have been the weekly daytime hours and less demand. We run club programs after school on 3 afternoons, but only have the use of the hall on 1 evening a week. During school hours, our coaches deliver general fitness and fundamental movement programs to our local schools. In recognition of the community support the club has received, we make all our equipment available to schools at no charge. We appreciate that the council must increase the charges on their facilities, but for our increase to be more than 300% was unbelievable. This time last year we were paying $8.10 per hour, anticipating an increase of approximately 5% in July. We have now been informed that our club fits into the highest charge category for the Waikanae Memorial Hall, and our charges will be now $27 per hour. Waikanae Gymnastic Club is a non-profit incorporated society with no commercial objectives. We're affiliated to Gymnastics New Zealand. All our coaches are volunteers, and the majority of our members are the children of your ratepayers. We ask why we've been placed in the highest charging category along with one-off groups with a commercial objective of making money, e.g. housing, concerts and socials. Yes, we do charge fees, which we try to keep to a minimum, but how else can we cover the cost of our hall rental, coach training, national affiliation, and cover the costs of repairs and maintenance on our equipment? As said before, all our coaches are volunteers. In conclusion, we're requesting that our club be moved from Category A to Category C and recategorised as a group with community interest, which is what we are. Above that, we request consideration also be given to our history of delivering what amounts to a physical health and safety program to all the school-aged children in the Waikanae community over a period of 40 years. We ask that consideration be given to the fact that our hall hours are disproportionately in the less popular off-peak morning hours. For those unaware of how we operate, 4 hours of our haurage each week pays for the time it takes for our voluntary members to set up and pack away our equipment, our rings, beams, vaults, mats and air track, etc. We will struggle to pay the increased cost of being placed in Category C, which is double our current costs. But if charges in your highest charge bracket, Category A, it will be unaffordable and will probably cause our club to close after 40 years of serving our community. Surely as long-term, regular and reliable users, we deserve more consideration. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your presentation, Kay. That's certainly a concerning situation.
Yes,
and I'm
very
sure-
concerning to
I'm
us
sure we'll
here.
follow it up. Yeah. Councillor Halliday.
Thank you through you, Madam Chair. That's pretty sobering. First thing, you've been heard. Just want to let you know that. But also, I just want to clarify a question. You talk about equipment, etc., at the hall. Do I assume that that's currently stored on site?
It is stored on site. Yes, we have. I suppose we have the largest percentage of storage in the Waikanae Hall, of which the council's some of it we paid for, and it's yes, I guess it's been a joint project between the club and the council.
So has there been any, you talk about being moved from Category A to C. I'm just curious to know, has there been any talk about any charge increase in regards to the storage aspect of your equipment?
Storage has never been mentioned.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much.
Councillor Kirby.
Kia ora, Kay. Thank you for your submission. I just want to, I guess, make a reassurance. There are a large number of other submitters who've expressed similar concern around clubs in a similar situation as yours, moving from into that Category A. So it is something that we are aware of, and we'll see what we can do in that space, just to reassure you of that.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Yes, thanks for that, Kay. I'm personally an advocate of Category N. There should be no fees whatsoever for public organisations. Anyway, that's another debate for another time. But are you comfortable that that your club would meet the criteria for Category C?
Oh, we think we're absolutely a community project. We have non-fund commercial, yes,
Good.
and we're run by volunteers.
Yeah. So have you had, has there been some come back to council about
We've
that?
met several times with your property committee, but to no avail. We've been meeting since November. We've had 2 meetings, one in November and one about a month ago, yeah,
Okay.
with Kelvin Irving and
Oh, right.
Jasmine.
Oh, we can follow up
Yeah,
with that.
yeah.
But the and just lastly, because these things, it tends to be a bit of a money go around. But again, the Waikanae Community Board funding for hall hire is one of the criteria that you would meet. So, which is kind of crazy because it just goes around in a loop, but that's worth thinking about as well.
So you're saying we apply to the community board
absolutely.
for assistance, yeah.
Yeah. I can talk to you offline about
All
that
right
as
then,
well.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. As Councillor Kirby said, we've had a number of submissions on this topic, so it's clearly something that we need to discuss, and hopefully we can find a resolution for you.
Well, yes, I must admit a 300% increase was a slight shock to our wee club, but
Yes, I can imagine. Thank you, Kay, and
Righto.
thank you for
Thank
the
you
work
very
that you do and your volunteers to
Thank you
provide
very
this
much.
service for the community. Tim Parry, is he here? No? So Bernie, your time has come. Older Persons Council. Bernie Randall.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jackie will do the
Kia ora, Jackie.
first part, and then I will somewhat finish, if it works out okay.
The tēnā koutou katoa and good afternoon to you all. I know we must be getting close to lunch. As you know, we're representing the Older Persons Council, and we have had a long established relationship with your council over a number of issues, particularly the development of the age-friendly approach, which you have adopted in October last year. And we wish to thank you for the work that you've done with us and as councillors and as staff members to achieve that major milestone. We've given you a very lengthy written submission, and I'm not going to talk to that, but rather we're going to focus our submission today, our verbal submission, on the options paper that you have put out, particularly the three major options. Proposal 1, the cost of 3 waters. The OPC supports option 2 with a caveat. That is the option to take on debt every year until the government has a clear policy for the 3 waters initiative or replacement of the original initiative. But we also want to see the council establishing the debt repayments in an enlarged water rate. That includes all 3 waters. And our rationale for that is first that there's a policy hiatus within government, central government, and we cannot accurately predict the near future, let alone the 10-year future. We do not believe that KCDC should assist central government to shift its costs onto ratepayers in the meantime. One totally inclusive and new water rate will provide transparency about the true cost of our taonga, the water or awa in our community. This is a very precious resource. It will benefit our ratepayers to know that they have a role and responsibility in looking after that asset, as well as making clear to central government the costs of providing these services at local body level. Proposal number 2, productively reduce the KCDC debts. OPC supports option 3, pay down debt over a longer period at 6%. Again, our rationale. We are in a socio-economic crisis which is likely to last for the next few years. There are significantly new policy changes due at central government level which will have intended but also unintended consequences for our society. Kapiti is the second largest elderly population, and it has a huge number of frail elderly people on a fixed and limited income. Unemployment is rising, and those currently in work, and many of whom are reliant on out-of-work benefits and disability support, an increase in debt reduction for those on fixed incomes is a very harsh punishment at a time like this. We believe that KCDC should not, quote, your own document, be pushing down harder on debt repayment, nor being bold in times of recession. Proposal number 3, sustainable council housing. OPC has had a lot of contact with your housing officers about the proposal, and it's been a very productive communication process. We support the Healthy Homes legislation, and we support universal design for housing for all people in our communities, but including definitely the aged. And we understand that your housing stock meets neither of those criteria. So that's why we are supportive of options 1 and 2. As to whether it should be a new or old CHP or an existing one, it's more about the quality of the contracts and the MOUs that you develop with a provider than it is whether they have been established for a long or a short time. The devil will be in the detail. KCDC needs to protect its assets in housing in the long term and have an extensive contract with any provider. But we also have a strong reservation about any rent increases for council tenants in the next financial year. We believe that the rate increases are going to impact extremely adversely on these people on fixed term incomes, and we strenuously oppose that proposition. Bernie.
Yeah, thank you. I'll continue the last two submissions. We're proposing a free admission to our swimming pools for those aged over 65, because many of our seniors use the pool from 5:30 in the morning. They queue up and use the pool for remedial exercises. It's not just for fun and enjoyment. They have physical needs, and this ties in with the age-friendly. Could do something through that by acknowledging a benefit, a reduction for people over 65 for swimming pools. And the second submission, Madam Chair, that you probably well know, you supported it in our newspaper about an older person's recreation area in McLean Park, and we would like to see that continue, right? The council staff have talked about it in some of their literature, but there's been no decision made when it's going to start and what timeline is it going to start in. And the other thing is we need ramps and handrails and smooth pathways for older people, seating so that they can be provided with shelter from rain and wind and sun. We've got the chatterbox out there by the railway station, but really, if you sit there this morning, it's so cold and windy. Some of these places have to be looked at to see, are they suitable for all age groups? Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much for your submission today. Quite a lot of it had quite some detailed information that's not in the written submission. So if we could be provided with a copy of what you submitted today, that would be really good so that we can take those points into consideration. So
Yes.
Particularly the stuff at the beginning about the water rate, I'm not seeing that in the written submission. And there were some other really good points that you made today, which are outside of what's in the submission. So with that said, I'll go to Councillor Halliday.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, it's more a comment. Hope you'll indulge me. But I just want to say, look, there's a lot of really good thoughts, information. I found it a very rich submission. I found it an excellent submission. But there's a heck of a lot in there. But the thing is, we have our Older Persons Council, and we have the age-friendly approach and advisory group now. So I'd love to see that be tightened up as a concept. I think it's a little bit loose at the moment, and that's due to be sitting under my committee as well. So looking forward to how we develop those pathways. And then the group feeding through us, being able to follow up on a lot of the points, because I think there's a lot of ongoingness to what's been submitted here, rather than it being specific for this long-term plan. That's the whole idea of the age-friendly approach, I dare say. So thank you for an excellent submission. I just wanted to voice that.
Thank you for voicing that, Councillor Halliday. Councillor Coe.
Yeah, great submission, and we probably need to spend more time with you going through what you've put together. I just wondered, look, the swimming pool charges, I think it's a really good idea. I'm just wondering whether there could be like a certain day of the week or time of the day where over 65s can swim free of charge. Would that work? You know, if there was like a golden hour or a golden day or something, super gold. You know, like you go to the supermarket on Tuesdays to get 10% off or something. Would that work?
It could. I mean, I think there's an economic cost to it too, be benefit to council. But I mean, the pool opens at 5:30. Believe it or not, most of the people queuing up at 5:30 are people over 65 years of age.
Yeah.
Because
they can't
their
sleep.
arthritis. Yeah, they can't sleep. That's right. So, and it goes back to 9 years ago when we did an internal audit. Because I remember the council did an internal audit on people handling money at swimming pool, and I noticed that the lifeguards are collecting money from 5:30 to about 7 because there's no regular staff turning up that time. I just think, personally, yeah, I think something is better than nothing.
Yeah.
But I would like to see it. I mean, my understanding is Porirua makes it free for everyone.
I guess it depends on the percentage of users that are in that age bracket as to what the financial impact might be.
That's
But
right.
there must be some room for movement there where at least at certain times you could make it free of charge. Yeah, thanks.
I think that proposal seems to have landed quite well. We'll have to discuss that. So I'm not seeing any more lights. Thank you so much for the richness in both the written and verbal submissions today, and for the ongoing work of the Older Persons Council. A number of points here that can be fed into the age-friendly approach implementation as well. So, but really great to have those thoughts all in one place, and we'll certainly give them consideration. Thank you so much. Oh yes, that's been a relief, hasn't it? Fantastic, thank you. Tim Parry. Hi, Tim.
Thank you. Okay. I won't keep you long. I just wanted to be present and verbalise what we put in submission, myself and my wife, with regards to the housing. So you've got community housing providers, and it's always been, I think, a little bit of a thing to have with councils throughout the country, that they have some rental properties available for usually the elderly. But today, we're not a small area, we're growing, and there's many disadvantaged people from all sectors. And the question I think that you as a council have to ask is, should you really be in housing? Yes, you've got to let developments come on and so on, but do you really have a remit to be involved in putting people into houses? I think the central government has put a lot of burden on local governments. That's why everybody's under pressure. And they would love you to carry on building a stock of houses, but if you're trying to reduce debt, and you can put and sell those houses to a reputable provider, then you're going to probably take off about easily 10% of your debt, just like that. Probably have, if you put aside 20 or 30% for big plans that you've got to do, that you don't know where you're going to get the money other than smashing people with your rates. And so where I'm coming from here is that when you re-look at this, and I know that your preference is not what I'm saying, you have to make a vote with your head, because if you make it with your heart, you won't vote the way I'm talking. But if you vote with your head, you're not saying those people who are tenants in those flats are going to be out the door. You're putting it, I would think, into a reputable provider. And the heart thing, I suppose, is that you would say if it takes 18 months to develop this, that you would have some sort of fixed term that they can't muck around with the rental or so forth, so they get plenty of time. Now, I can see from your body language, a lot of you aren't agreeing with me, but I'm here to take the hit and give you an alternative. And that will take off tens of millions off your debt if you sell them. You're not kicking them into the street. And I still say that looking after a small subset of the population in housing is not your remit, and that you're trying to find a way around it without being seen to be harsh. And that's why I say on this one, you will have to vote with your head. You have to look at the numbers and say, are we in this? Because it's only piecemeal. You've got about 118 flats, and you've got people that don't even apply because they know they can't get in there. And it's only aimed at one segment of your society. There's plenty of other people that are struggling, and they're not old people. So I just want you to take that. That's why I wanted to verbalise it in front of you. And when you make a vote on this, maybe some of what I've said will come through the head, not the heart. That's it.
Thank you very much for sharing your perspective. We do have some questions. Are you happy to take some questions?
Sure.
Yep, councillor Coe.
I understand your concern, and yes, selling off houses would give us a one-off reduction in our debt. It doesn't solve the ongoing problem. So would you be in favour of council being involved in housing, providing it was cost neutral to council?
It will never be cost neutral in the long run. That's the reality. You'll say that's again the heart saying that this is a nice little workaround, but the reality is it won't. You'll have costs coming at you no matter what. You've still got something that you've got to maintain with a workaround. It won't be cost neutral.
Well, that's to be debated, but one of the reasons for moving the direction we're going into is to tap into other sources of funding that would hopefully result in something that's at least close to cost neutral for council.
Here we go again. Hopefully,
Yeah, I think
close to.
Anyway.
We're verging on debating with the submission,
okay.
so let's leave that
I just
there.
wanted, if that's if cost neutrality was achievable, would that be acceptable to you?
No, I'm here to give you one path that is, you know exactly what you're going to get. You're going to knock off tens of millions of your debt, and you're going to put the responsibility into an expert. And you weren't voted in to be experts on housing as far as accommodation goes.
Councillor Halliday.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in, Tim. Look, I just wanted to just clarify. You're aware of the Community Land Trust situation with what's being set up to keep it at arm's length from council? It's a Community Land Trust, and what we're talking about is transferring that housing asset into that trust away from council. As such, there's nothing financial moving with that as such, but the idea is to put that into the Community Land Trust, which can access different funding than what we can currently access. The housing that we have is it's 40 to 50 years old. It's something that's been around for a long time. I take on your point that back in the day, a lot of councils supplied this sort of housing. What we're looking at is moving forward, what's a good outcome for our ratepayer, if you like. We've been told that the units are not cost neutral. We've got options. Options are to sell them. So options are to also...
That's my option, you say.
Yep.
And I'm just saying that straight away says you're not involved in housing.
Yep.
There is an entity that is. They look after that. You get paid, and then you're out.
Okay, so I should rephrase my question. Are you aware of the Community Land Trust?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And do you think that that's an appropriate vehicle for this?
It is if you're voting with your heart and you don't want, and you're hoping that you're going to be cost
No,
neutral.
no. It's not a case of hoping. It's a case of that would then be removed as a burden to the ratepayer. As such, it's quite clear it'll be going to a separate trust that will not be part of council.
And what will they do with the ownership of the?
That's up to them.
Exactly.
That's up to them. That's up to them. But we'll have memorandums of understanding around that, of course, because it's an asset that's been paid for.
I think we kind of got where you're both
Okay,
sitting on that
thank you
one.
very much, Tim. Appreciate your view.
Okay.
Yeah. Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. You will have heard from the last submitter, they want the debt reduced more slowly, and you're in favour of the 7% number in debt reduction. Would you like to see council's debt reduced quicker? I mean, have an impact on the rate line, of course, but...
Well, I think it's obvious that that's my position in the sense that if you can reduce the interest that you're paying by selling an asset that really, in my opinion, is past its use-by date for council, it's not a specialist area for council, you're doing everybody a favour. And as long as those tenants aren't going to be screwed by the people that buy it, and if they go to a decent provider, that should not happen, then it's a win-win. And you're under the pump. You've got to find ways to get, like a lot of councils up and down the country, to reduce that burden of debt. And I'm just giving you a very strong point of view that will only be met by you if you look at it from the point of view of your brain, your head, and you keep the heart out of it. Because as soon as you bring your heart into it, you're going to start getting fluffy about the poor people that aren't being looked after properly. And I'm not being harsh. I'm being realistic, and that's why I'm prepared to come to the Lions Den, front up, and take a hit.
Cool.
Well, I think you've brought a really interesting perspective today, because it always is a struggle, isn't it, between pragmatism and empathy. And it's, it's a tightrope that we have to walk. And you've given us your perspective on how we should approach that question. And it's a legitimate one. So thank you for coming in today and sharing that.
Okay.
We really appreciate it. Yeah.
Just when you make your vote, think pragmatism and head, even if you're thinking heart. That's my close.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Tim.
Bye-bye.
Really appreciate it. And we've come to our lunch break. Thank you very much. We'll be back at 2:00.